Hey, it's always great to have you coming down the road with us right here on Beck News. We got a lot of things we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about what's going on in the legislature with Josh Boschee. We're going to talk about where we're getting our minerals from when it comes to all the new electric vehicles and everything else involved with it with Ernest Scheyder from Reuters. We're also going to get an opportunity to just make a couple comments on some of the shootings that are happening across the country. But I've known Barry Nelson for a long time. Barry Nelson is an organizer. He's an advocate. He's someone that has stuck up for people at every facet of their life. And that's one of the reasons that I love Barry so much and love getting a chance to visit with him. He's an organizer when it comes to the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition. Let's bring him in. Barry, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thanks. Good to be with you, Joe.
Tell people what the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition is.
It's a membership-based statewide organization. We're a 501c3. We exist to organize around human rights issues, which means we are in front of the legislature, we're in front of city government, and we also educate on human rights for all citizens and residents of North Dakota.
Barry, all over the news, national news, is the conversation of what's happening on our southern border. The numbers are increasing. The Biden administration you can look at is saying in violation of the law in relation to what they're doing. What's going on, and how do we fix this? I mean, what's your take on it?
Well, I think sometimes the best way to look at situations as they emerge is to look at it from a longer term perspective, and I think this is no different. I talked to an individual who has worked with border issues for a relatively short time. I think she's probably for the most has worked for 10 years, and she gave the perspective of, she said in her short career, this is probably the 5th time that there has been an uptick in people massing on our southern border. So it's happened before. It's going to happen again. I think it's important to take a look at what distinguishes, though, each migration, what is different. We often talk about the southern border as though these are people from Mexico trying to get into the country. Many of the people that are at the border right now are from Guatemala, Honduras, and the Salvadorians. A whole different perspective there. There are wars going on in their home country. There are 2 huge storms that ravaged those countries recently. That's probably causes migration to occur again. So I think there's just a lot of things that are happening, not to mention the dynamics in our own country. We're in the midst of a pandemic. We have a state that's still, in a sense, digging out from a huge winter storm. So their ability to deal with this kind of movement has been limited. We have a president who's been in office for 2 months. The head of HHS has not yet been confirmed by the Senate, and this is a very important organization to deal with this kind of movement. The number of children is alarming, again, as it has been in the past. So I think there's a lot of moving parts to this. It's not simple.
Your organization and a certain radio talk show host that are people now watching on TV was very critical of the Trump administration and their handling of the border and the numbers that were at the border. So I think it's only fair to ask you this. Has the Biden administration dropped the ball? Are they doing what needs to be done on the border?
Well, I think that I'm going to give them a little bit of a leeway here. I think that they need to. I do believe there's sincere effort there to try to be humane in the response to the people moving onto our border area. I think that it does take time to build infrastructure. I think there's no question that our southern border infrastructure was diminished to a great deal over the last 4 years, and so to rebuild that, it does take time. I think that the president is looking for short-term solutions, while the long-term solutions come down the road. Do I agree with everything that he has been doing, no. I'm, probably 2 more months, I'm going to be perhaps more critical, but right now he's trying to take a multifaceted approach to this. He is telling people, don't come right now. We don't have the capacity to deal with you if you present yourself to our southern border. So he is telling people to stay home, and yet he recognizes he's got 6,500 children that he has to deal with, and he's looking for ways to humanely deal with them while their cases are being processed. He is keeping the option of filing for asylum open, which I think was critical, and the fact that that was removed in the last few years was bad. I think that I don't begin to believe that every single person coming to the border has a right to asylum to the United States, but they have a right to apply for that asylum and to have their case being heard while they're in safe environment. And I think this is what's trying to be put in place and restored at this point.
There's a lot of people, Barry, that are pointing to what the president now, Joe Biden, was saying during the campaign, which is the approach that Donald Trump took was inhumane. And yet the visual out of the southern border really doesn't look much different than what Donald Trump had. We can talk about the wall, and we will just in a second, but do we, as two people who were critical of Donald Trump, need to admit, quite frankly, that the Biden administration isn't doing much differently? I'm curious what you think about that.
I still think that I am willing to give him time. I agree with you, Joel, that the visuals are not good. It doesn't look good to have people crossing the river, many of them carrying young children in their arms. That is a reality that we are dealing with right now. I do hope that the administration can move rapidly to be able to, again, like I said, process those who have a rightful claim to asylum. Many of these people are fleeing warlike situations and horrible circumstances in their home country. And we have agreed through the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights that we will do everything we can to grant asylum for people who are qualified. And for those who are not qualified, to quickly remove them back to their country of origin so that they're not living in horrific circumstances on the border. Let's give this at least a week and a half, and see, in fact, if the efforts are having some impact on the border.
Barry, there's a lot of talk, and there always is, about money going to foreign countries and money being invested in Central America. As you pointed out, many of the individuals that we find ourselves with on the southern border they're not Mexicans. They come from Central America that's war torn in many places, and they're trying to get their kids out of there. They're doing as any parent would do, which is try to get their kids into a safe place. One of the things that I'm curious what you think about is the investment that the United States of America could make in those countries where they do live, the involvement that the United States of America could make there, so that the need to go all the way through Mexico to get to us isn't there. And I'm curious what you think about that.
Absolutely. There's no question. If you look at the really long arc of history of the United States involvement with Central America, it's been a very, very dark and horrible history. We created much of these circumstances. We're maybe talking 50, 75, 100 years ago, but we created much of this incredible disparity of resources and the problems that exist to this day in those countries. There's no question, but the solution has to lie in the countries of origin, that people need to be able to live safely and securely within their own communities. Joel, I have worked with people fleeing persecution from around the world for most of my career. I have never met a person who came into this country as an asylum seeker or as a refugee who said, no, you know what? I thought the United States sounded like a really cool place, and that's where I want to go and bring my family. No, they were forced to leave. If they were given any kind of option, they would return to their country. That's where they're familiar. That's where they feel the best possible thing. So if we could stabilize and provide the kind of positive investment, but we have to be really careful. Many of our attempts at working in Central America and elsewhere in the world have been a debacle. So we have to make sure that we are doing this in the right and proper way.
So I have to ask you, though, because as a radio talk show host that didn't support the wall, I'm getting this thrown at me a lot, which is, do you support the wall now? Is this a failed policy, as you said it was? I always point out that, first off, I was promised it would be paid for by Mexico. Second off, I went down to Arizona, and I did a radio show down there, and what I found is that the people that live in some of those very areas that we're talking about, they don't believe a wall would ever work. They don't, and these were hardline conservatives. They think that the whole theory behind a wall wouldn't work. But I've got to ask you, now that the Biden administration is quite frankly eating a little crow and has yet to give us an example of what they're going to do, I have to ask you, was President Trump right? Would the wall have solved some of this?
Absolutely not. Not for a minute did I believe that building a wall of any size or scope would solve the problem. Do I subscribe to let's just turn our borders open and let people move in at will? Absolutely not. But to first of all, we need to fix our immigration system. Our immigration system we know it's been broken since the 1980s, and Congress has to deal with that. And this is, we need leadership from the president, but we need Congress to pass an immigration bill that makes sense and is fair. Chaos is not a world in which is good in terms of mass movement of people. If people believe that there is a chaotic world order out there, it's not good for us as a country. It's not good for people who are trying to find a solution to their lives. So we need to fix our immigration system. The wall, from the very beginning, to me, struck me as a really, really expensive deflection, a false solution to what we knew was a very complicated problem. But we need to be doing that by having a really clear demonstration of who can arrive in our country, that we extend the fact that we are a humanitarian country that drives our policy most of all, but we're also a country that believes in the sanctity of our borders and that we need to have control over those borders.
Barry, last question. I promise I got about 30 seconds for an answer. So I'm going to ask you a tough one and not give you time to answer it. But I have to ask you, do you think this country takes advantage of those workers that come across that border and they live in a subculture to where in many cases they're abused with the very labor that they provide employers? In other words, the question is really this. Do you think we're tough enough on the employers that take advantage of them?
No. I think that we have, and our underground economy, which are generally those people who are here undocumented. This is a population that, there's millions of people, and they are the most ripe for victimization possible. Our laws don't apply to them; they don't get services, and yeah, I think there are not all, but there are unscrupulous industries and employers that truly take advantage of that for a really cheap source of labor.
And there are individuals right in our backyard that have been caught doing just that. Barry, always good to visit with you. Thanks for giving us time.
You bet.
When we come back, Representative Josh Boschee is going to join us. We'll get a chance to talk to him about what phase the legislature is in right now. So, Minority Leader Josh Boschee when we come back on Down the Road.
Howdy folks, it's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line. Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness.
During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark. Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close. Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling atomic beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free. This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit bynighthero.com. That's bynighthero.com. Order now.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
You know, I think at times North Dakotans don't understand the legislative process. And quite frankly, they shouldn't have to. They're electing people to do that for them. But, you know, they should. Actually, they should. They should understand it so they know what can happen. Let me give you a perfect example. You introduce legislation, you work your butt off to make sure that it gets through your chamber, it heads over to the other chamber, you have a hearing. I mean, there's a lot of steps that take place before this ever even has the potential of getting to the governor's desk for his signage, and then we have a new law. There's always games that are played with that. Always games that are played with that. And the one term that most of the public out there doesn't know is what hog house means when you hog house a bill. I asked the minority leader, Josh Boschee, to come in and visit with us about everything that's happening in the legislature right now at this point during the session. Josh, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Joel, always good to be on and great to educate folks on the legislative process.
I really want you to explain. I don't think it's changed since I did my 14 years there, and I make it sound like a prison sentence. Then I had the ability to serve for 14 years in the legislative session, but describe to people what hog housing a bill is.
Yeah, so essentially hog housing is, you know, we receive a bill that says A, B, C, D, E, F, G on it, and then the committee completely wipes out all of that and changes it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the original bill, anything that supporters or opponents were focusing on is completely changed to, it still has to be germane, but that's pretty loose. So any tax bill becomes any other tax bill. You know, anything that has funding in it could change to anything else with funding. It's essentially completely changing the intention of the bill, but you still have the names of the sponsors on it. So it's a way that you can make someone look bad. You can take a good bill and turn it into a bad bill, and now you have good people's names on it with a bad bill. So it's certainly one of the games that gets played around here.
Give me an example, because I think it's already happening, is it not?
Yeah, this week we're seeing it big. It's kind of where policy committees are wrapping up and the appropriations committees are hitting it hard. But, since the bills have all crossed over from the House to the Senate, each side has killed the other side's bills, or some of the other side's bills. So what happens is bills get taken hostage and become hog-housed. So actually just yesterday, the House Finance and Tax Committee took a great bill that came over from the Senate. It was providing tax incentives for people to repair old houses in older parts of neighborhoods throughout the state. And they completely gutted it, hog-housed it, and now it is adding some magic fund of $150 million to provide income tax relief across the state. So we took a bill that was going to help homeowners stay in their home and fix up their homes and get property tax exemptions. Now it's about income taxes and making sure that folks that pay a little more than you and I get a bigger break.
See, and I absolutely hate it when we say words like the legislature did that, or, because there's this perception that everybody agreed. You got in the back room and you opened up your can of SpaghettiOs and you had a beer and said, all right, here's what we're going to do today, which both you and I know is a bunch of bunk. And so let's just name names. Let's just name the force behind taking a small town of Matador, which has some houses that they want revamped, which can utilize a fund like that to stay alive, to make sure that the water and the sewer system and the schools and all those things work and stay open. And then they lose that. They lose that, quite frankly, to the richest among us because somebody knew how to hide it. They knew how to slip it in. Name the names. Name the forces behind this.
Yeah, well, it's. I don't think it's any surprise, and he wouldn't be mad at me for saying it, but it's Representative Craig Hedlund, who has, session after session tried to eliminate or reduce property taxes. He's from the Montpelier area, District 29. So we were surprised that there wasn't an income tax bill introduced this session, but it found its way in not only this bill, but in another bill, and that's why it was amended on an appropriations committee bill that went from the House to the Senate. The Senate took that out, and so this is Representative Hedlund trying to basically get back or create friction between the Senate, hold this bill hostage.
So what's the recourse? Because you and I put our name on a bill, we sponsor it. In this case, somebody in the Senate said we need to do this, and now it's sent over to the House, and that's theirs. They're going to own it. I mean, someday some historian is going to say, what in the heck happened here? Who was driving the bus on this? And what they're going to find is the very people whose name is on top of that piece of legislation had nothing to do with what it did in the end. So what happens? How do you kill that so the Craig Hedlunds of the world can't abuse those sponsors?
Yeah, well, I'm chuckling as you talk about that because the prime sponsor of the bill, Joel, is Senator Judy Lee from West Fargo. So you can only imagine how happy she's going to be that her bill got completely ransacked. But, it requires a rule change. It's a simple thing that we can do in the legislature to say, hey, and we can set it up however we want. But, I've actually proposed a rule change a couple sessions ago that said if you're going to hog-house or significantly amend a bill, you need the sponsor's permission. I introduced a bill on behalf of constituents or a community I represent to do X, Y, Z, and now you're going to amend it and it's going to do something completely different. That's not fair to the people who worked on this. That's not fair to the folks who showed up to testify. And to use that as a tool, it plays games. And in the majority party, this isn't just about the majority of the minority either. I chuckled, Joel, about, Representative Jeff Magrum. From Hazleton area, who, he sits right in front of me, and we've sat next to each other on the floor for a number of years. He had a bill in to do something with senior meals. His grandma is the chair of their county senior citizens committee or doing some of that work. And he didn't know they hog-housed his bill to do something bad with senior meals. And the day his grandma was sitting on the floor with him, his bill comes up for the floor and he said, this isn't the bill so how embarrassing for him, the woman he's trying to work with and his grandma. So he and I were able to find common ground and try to propose a rule change to say you can't do that to folks. If you want to introduce a bill, but don't do it at the demise of other good policy.
So I'm curious about that piece of legislation now. Did they pass it in its hog house form? And knowing that personality, knowing that individual, my guess is he got pretty ticked off, and you could tell he was ticked off.
Yeah. Well, I think it was maybe his first session too, but I can't answer. I don't remember if it got reverted back because, if it passes the House, which, again, that bill or this bill that Representative Hedlund has amended, it'll go to conference committee. So the Senate and the House, 3 members from each chamber will duke it out on the differences, and that significant of a difference is, the Senate's going to take a position. This is not the bill we passed, so why are we even talking about this?
So, we're talking about Craig Hedlund doing this. Why doesn't he put his own name on a bill? I realize we're past the filing deadline, but if he wanted an income tax break for the richest among us, was he trying to hide it? Why didn't he have the courage to put his own name on it then?
Yeah, those are good questions to ask him. He has introduced bills in the past, but they've been defeated soundly. Again, income tax is not a concern of most North Dakotans. It's property tax reduction and making sure we have good schools and pay for our law enforcement at the same time. So, it's either because he woke up that morning and decided I'm going to play some games, or this has been, in the back of the hat for a long time, and this was the opportunity to do it.
I know I only have a little bit of time left, but I spoke to Charlie Johnson and you hail from Fargo, Minority Leader Boschee, and Charlie Johnson heads up the Convention and Visitors Bureau in the Fargo-Moorhead area. And so, in the 30 seconds that we have left, the transgender bill that he's been fighting so hard to make sure that we can still bring revenue in from other sports activities, and they won't come if this bill passes. What are they doing to that bill? Is there an acknowledgement now? Are they amending it to where it doesn't mean anything? Or are they still targeting transgender people?
Yeah, it continues to be amended down to smaller and smaller sections as we see the unintended or the intended consequences of it and the economic impact. And so the version that came out of the Senate Judiciary Committee yesterday morning is it only focuses on K-12 education. So it's presumably to do that to appease the Charlie Johnsons and the USA swimming groups and the gymnastics groups. But it's very clear that these national regional organizations, regardless of what policy we have on the book, they're going to decide not to come anyways because they don't want to be in a state. And that hurts all kids who are trying to compete in swimming and hockey and gymnastics. So it's these ideologues, these radical ideas of trying to bully and pick on kids that is going to impact all kids in the state and their ability to qualify for regional and national competition. And
I got to add, anybody who thinks that the bill in its current form or in the form before this was a good piece of legislation, I would beg of them to look at the policy that the North Dakota High School Activities Association had and see if the problem wasn't addressed. Josh, always good to have you on with us. Appreciate you coming down the road with us.
Thanks, Joel. Have a great day.
You bet. When we come back, Ernest Scheyder is going to join us. Ernest works with Reuters. He's a correspondent. We're going to talk to him about some of the minerals that are needed to deal with electric cars, for example.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even
even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 cool turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more cool turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real cool turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
Indoor football is back in Bismarck. Bucks football season is right around the corner. Grab a friend or family member for a night of action-packed, hard-hitting entertainment. The Bucks open at the Bismarck Event Center May 8th as they take on the Massachusetts Pirates. Catch the sweetest seats in the house right on the sidelines with VIP service at a Bucks turf table. Available now for single game purchases. Secure your tickets today by calling 701-595-0771. Bucks football, half the field and double the fun.
Beck Communications is now hiring independent sales agents around the state. We're looking for highly motivated individuals to take advantage of this opportunity, selling advertising for our news and sports programming on Beck TV and sponsorships for the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team. Independent sales agents will make 50% commission on their completed sales for all products. Beck TV is the leader in broadcasting local sports, owner of the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team, and originator of newly launched news opinion programming. Submit your application now at careers@bechtel.coop. This is an exciting opportunity you can't pass up. 50% commission for independent sales agents now hiring at Beck Communications.
You know, we hear a lot of talk, ladies and gentlemen, about renewable, whether it be wind towers, whether it be electric cars, whether it be a lot of things that the future is going to hold. We've all seen press reports from Ford and Chevrolet and Dodge and, you know, about what their goals are. What they're planning on doing to where you're going to be buying a 3/4 ton electric pickup. That's in the end some of their goals, and they're coming way quicker than what I think a lot of us thought they would come. Ernest Scheyder he writes for Reuters, and he spent a couple of years right here in North Dakota, out in the Williston Play, in the Bakken, and so, you know, this is a man that knows our state. He knows what we produce for energy. And I wanted to have a chance to talk to him about all of this. So, Ernest, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Good to be with you, Joe.
I do want to talk about the minerals it takes, because I was dealing with one person the other day, and conversing. There we go, so I don't sound like I was in a war. But I was talking to one individual the other day about, you know, what is in a wind tower? What is in an electric car? And of course his answer was batteries, you know, in the car. And I said, well, yeah, on that we agree, but the minerals that were used in those batteries, and I'm not convinced, Ernest, that the American public really understands that. I'm not.
So yes, I mean, it's just like gasoline is used to power your internal combustion engine, but there's a lot of other materials used to make it: aluminum, steel, plastic, etc. There's a lot of materials and minerals that go into an electric car. I mean, take the battery that your friend was talking about. Inside that battery, of course, is an anode and a cathode, and lithium, cobalt, nickel are just 3 of the main minerals that are used inside electric vehicle batteries, depending on the battery chemistry. Copper is, of course, used extensively in everything that's electronic, and especially electric cars. All these minerals come from somewhere, and right now China is either the world's largest consumer or producer, or both, of many of these minerals. And that's a clout that China has been very open about using to its advantage. You know, when I lived in Williston in North Dakota, you know, one of the main themes that kept coming up was how the state was a huge influence on the global oil stage and loved sort of, wrestling with OPEC. Well, if electric cars go mainstream, and everyone thinks they will by 2030, pretty soon it's going to be the United States wrestling with China for a lot of control of these minerals. And that's sort of an existential question that the country has yet to fully grapple with.
Well, we raise corn, and we raise soybeans, and we raise edible beans, and all of those things are things that we need to sell in many cases to foreign countries. When you look at soybeans and you look at edible beans, those markets are in the Pacific Rim. They're in Asian countries, and so, to deal with the tariffs that President Trump put on, had we not paid tons of money to farmers, had we not increased our national debt to subsidize farmers at that time, I'm not sure some of these guys would still be on the farm farming. And in the end, we didn't get the steel industry back. We didn't get the coal industry back the way he said we were going to. And we certainly didn't get, high tech the way he said we were going to. And so here we sit. If we give away those mineral interests, we're going to be in that same point again. We're going to be sitting there scratching our head and wondering what we did in terms of what we need. Or at least that would be my suspicion.
It's not so much a question of giving it away or not. It's a question of, can the United States, and I use can, not may, I use that word on purpose, can the United States develop those assets? Can, of course, implies, when you look up the word, it implies ability. And a lot of that has to do with permitting, and not just permitting for mines, but permitting for processing facilities. Everybody wants an electric car, but nobody wants a copper mine in their backyard. Just like everybody wants to put gasoline in their car, but not a lot of people want to have an oil derrick in their backyard or a nodding donkey. Of course, people in North Dakota are familiar with that. So it's a question of, what do we want as a society? Mining regulations in the United States are much tougher than places like China or some other countries in the world. And so the mining industry has been very, shall we say, pushing the message that it might as well be done here where it'll be done environmentally in an environmentally sustainable way. Take cobalt, for instance. The Democratic Republic of Congo is the world's largest source of cobalt, and that's used to make electric vehicle batteries. But in Congo right now, child labor is really, really prevalent. Folks like Elon Musk and others have said, obviously we're opposed to child labor, and we don't want a 7-year-old out there mining the cobalt that goes into our electric cars. But the U.S. does have supply of cobalt, so does Canada, and other countries in the Western Hemisphere. And the United States has talked about wanting to increase production of cobalt and other EV metals. But unless it actually funds these mines or funds the plants to process it, then China will remain the world's largest consumer of that, and pretty soon the world's largest source. So it's these tough questions that I think folks have to think through. And just because you buy an electric car, it doesn't mean you're helping reduce climate change.
Well, and let's talk about that. You mentioned that United States has cobalt, but let me talk about the other minerals. I mean, do we have an adequate supply here in the 48 geographic states right now? Heck, I might just well include Alaska in all of this. But do we have enough of the minerals necessary to meet the goals that the America needs to get to the point of renewables where we say we're going to get?
Well, I mean, it's not a completely black and white answer. Yes, there's very large supplies of copper. Let's just say copper, lithium, nickel, and cobalt. It's very large supplies of all four of those EV metals in the United States, if you say the 49 states, excluding Hawaii, as you just say. Some of those are in places that are very controversial. For instance, northern Minnesota has the Boundary Waters region on the Canadian border, has a large project, the Twin Metals project, that has a large copper and nickel deposit. Very controversial because it would be an underground mine near this giant recreational wilderness, and there's a lot of environmentalists and conservationists opposed to that. So it becomes a question of trade-offs. What do we want to allow and what do we not want to allow? There are some minerals, yes, that the United States just does not have, and then there are areas where we just don't know enough. Some of the executive orders President Trump signed, former President Trump, and now even President Biden are in agreement that we need to do a better job of studying just what's in the ground in the United States. But broadly, yes, there are deposits here that the U.S. can mine and can produce. In addition, there's a lot of research going into recycling. I'm sure if you opened up your closet at home, Joel, you would have 10 old cell phones. I know I do. And they're just sitting there. And now imagine if you bought an electric car and in 10 years you decide to get another one, what do you do with it? The technology needs to grow to be able to say, let's recycle that old, in this example, hypothetical EV that Joel Heitkamp wants to get rid of. And so the more and more that we get to what's called a circular economy, where we're taking the lithium and the other metals out of your old EV and using it to build a new EV, then, as you can see, it starts to snowball, and that true circular economy is achieved. But that'll take a long time to get there.
Yeah, well, I think that one of the things that we as a country definitely want to do is make sure that as we move towards this new technology, new phase of our life, I think we definitely want to make sure that we're not dependent on foreign countries for that. So the last 10 bucks in your pocket, if you had to bet, are we going to fix this Are we going to be allowed to go after some of those that copper and copper mines, or are we going to sit there and be purists and basically, accept the foreign product? If you had to bet.
Well, I mean, it's my job to sort of, describe the race, not necessarily to pick a winner in the race. And so that's my job as a journalist. So that's all I can do is lay it out there. But I can encourage people to think about these issues and to really sort of sit with them and say, okay, what do we want as a society? Because until we do that, the status quo will remain.
Well, I got to tell you, it was fun to ask you anyway. If people want to find your work, if they want to tie in with somebody who understands our backyard here, who understands exactly what we're doing, in the world scope of providing energy, where would they go? I mean, where would they go, Ernest?
Check out Reuters.com or find me on Twitter.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on.
Good to be with you, Joel.
You bet. When we come back, we're going to talk about shootings. We're going to talk about gun control. We're going to talk about if there's too many guns out there. We're going to talk about whether or not people like Joel Heitkamp own too many guns. As we come back and head down the road.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Beck Communications is hiring. Beck Communications is seeking qualified candidates for plant technicians in our Wheatland, North Dakota location. Beck Communications is an equal opportunity employer. To view the job details, visit www.beck.coop. To apply, email your cover letter and resume to careers@bechtel.coop. Beck Communications, making connections that matter.
Thanks for coming along. It's good to have you in the rig as we go down the road. This show is, for me, it's a lot of fun to do, and I want to thank Beck News for giving me the opportunity to do it and to talk about tough issues. What you're going to find is that I'm not a one-note song here. I think that Joe Biden is not doing a good job when it comes to our southern border. I think that he needs to, and he has created some of that problem himself by some of the tones that he's set. Well, he's got to fix it. He's got to fix it. And people like me on the left side of the aisle, on the progressive side of the aisle, we need to hold him accountable for that. We do. We need to make sure and continue to push on that. Now, that being said, there's a real difference there than it's been for the last 4 years, to where the right side of the aisle never once has been willing to criticize President Trump. So, yeah, I'll admit it when he's not doing a good job. But I think you need to ask yourself, you Trump supporters, whether or not you were willing to admit it when Donald Trump was goofing up. And the problem is, many of you, it doesn't matter what he was doing, you were drinking the Kool-Aid and you were going to agree with him no matter what. And so, yeah, I'll more than agree that what's going on our southern border isn't good and it needs to be fixed. I want to talk a little bit about shootings across the United States. I do. I want to talk about what happened in Georgia and what just happened in Colorado. In Colorado, 10 people are dead. One of those is a police officer. And I feel kind of guilty pointing out it's just the police officer when those other people were human lives, and they meant as much to their families as that police officer did to his. But it's proof positive to me how police officers every day are in harm's way. And I wanted to make sure you knew about that. But what's happening here is going to cause more conversation in regards to gun control, or as you see it, takings when it comes to amendment or when it comes to constitutional provision and when it comes to Article 2, right? So I got to ask you this. Are we as gun owners, and I own 22 guns. My wife scratches her head and looks at my gun safes and go, why? What? I mean, you hunt pheasants, you hunt deer, you go out this time of year, you shoot some muskrats, you do some target clay, you do some, target shooting with the rifles, but do you need that many guns to do it? I start pulling out different guns. I was given a gun by my board of directors when I left for a water after 23 years. I use it. It's a double barrel. I still hunt pheasants with it. I thought about keeping it and just keeping it in pristine shape. And then I thought, you know what? That isn't why they gave it to me. They gave it to me to go out and shoot. And so, yeah, I love that gun. Absolutely love it. I've also got a 270 and a 300 that I go deer hunting with. And what I found out was I like the 270 better than the 300. Even the 300 is quicker. And everybody claims it's the ultimate elk and deer hunting gun. What I found is I can do just fine shooting with that 270. That being said, there's a lot of other guns in that gun safe. There are. Some of those are collector's guns. I got a Henry 22 rifle. Always wanted it. My nephew says it's the worst shooting rifle ever sold, worst 22, and he says, there, now you won a boat or. So, because I won that at one of those places where you buy tickets. I won't out them. But I always wanted it, and I won one. And then I've got a collector's item. There were only 5 of those sold for the city of Mander on their 125th anniversary. Paid too much for it, but I love having it. And so I have guns for those reasons as well. Not to mention, and not included in the 22 is my old Red Ryder BB gun. So I'm not adverse to guns. I'm not. Did I prove that to you? I've got an AR. I've got a new Savage 17 that I go out and shoot muskrat with. I think most people use the terms AR because they don't understand other semi-automatic weapons. But, and like they always say, nothing matters that you said before the word but. But when you look at past gun legislation and you look at what triggered it, there had to be 2 instances that triggered it. For example, if you owned this gun, well then it had to have, for example, the 2 things that triggered it and made it illegal to own included, for example, grenade launchers. Now, how many of you own a grenade launcher? Some of you do, maybe, I don't know. But even if you owned a grenade launcher, there had to be one other instance involved with it before you lost the right to own that weapon. Now, that wasn't bad legislation. That wasn't bad. And the fact that you go into a gun store and can't leave with it instantly, I could live with that. I could. The fact that you got a 100-round clip, I don't know where that's that big of a problem, but we can talk about that. I'd be willing to have a conversation about that. But here's instances that I'm going to give you where we've gone too far. We have. Look at what happened in Las Vegas. There was a gentleman from Minot shot, and he's never going to be the same, from Minot that got shot in what happened in Las Vegas. And one of the weapons that did the most damage in that shooting was a weapon with a bump stock. Now, what's a bump stock? Well, you get a semi-automatic weapon, you get a semi-automatic rifle, and the force of that rifle after you shoot it, the recoil, causes it to move quicker to where you can shoot again. Do we need that? I mean, do we need that? If the federal government makes it illegal, which they did, now in North Dakota, we have to send the signal as a legislature to make bump stocks legal, which really turns that weapon into an automatic weapon. Now, some of you are going to say, yep, we should have an automatic weapon. I don't agree. Why? As a gun owner and a gun enthusiast, as someone who's been around people with guns all my life, why? Why do we need a bump stock? Why did the legislature have to pass that? And I'll tell you why. Because they love the NRA so much because of the money they get from them. The same NRA, I might add, that same NRA that was taking your membership, absconding with it, and people were buying suits and helicopters and cars and vacation homes, and they went broke. That's right, they went broke. That same NRA. So I'm not exactly going to look to them for advice, but I am going to talk about common sense when it comes to guns. When we come back, some closing comments right here as we go down the road.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
Beck Communications is now hiring independent sales agents around the state. We're looking for highly motivated individuals to take advantage of this opportunity, selling advertising for our news and sports programming on Beck TV and sponsorships for the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team. Independent sales agents will make 50% commission on their completed sales for all products. Beck TV is the leader in broadcasting local sports, owner of the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team, and originator of newly launched news opinion programming. Submit your application now at careers@bechtel.coop. This is an exciting opportunity you can't pass up. 50% commission for independent sales agents now hiring at Beck Communications.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Okay, one more point when it comes to guns that I have to make, that I absolutely have to make. And then you can criticize me again as though Joel Heitkamp is against the Second Amendment, that Joel Heitkamp is not for the freedom to bear arms, which is a bunch of bunk. But there's one more item I want to bring to your attention, which is, and I hope some of you have seen it. If not, grab your computer and do the Google and type in Nerf gun. And you're not just going to see that Nerf gun that your grandson or granddaughter has that they might shoot you in the keister with, and you're trying to teach gun safety with. What you're going to see is a gun that actually shoots bullets, bullets that can kill people. And it's meant and designed to look like a Nerf gun. I ask you, should that be legal? Should that gun be legal? I mean, for those of you that are for unlimited gun rights, that don't believe for one moment that there should be any level of gun control out there, should that gun be legal? Another one, for example, I run all DeWalt in my house. That's what I run. I've got DeWalt high impact. I've got DeWalt just old regular drills. I've got all of that, right? Should guns be made to look like a DeWalt drill? Should they? Or should you know it when you see it? I've been complaining to people that are against ARs for years that they don't understand ARs, that there's semi-automatic weapons out there that do exactly what ARs do. You tend to look at an AR and what you see is a synthetic stock, and that pushes you over the top. Well, you know what? Am I being a hypocrite? Because I don't think ARs should sit there and get thrown into this group as though they're evil. It's usually the person behind them that's evil. But when it comes to Nerf guns, I mean, come on. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. Should a Nerf weapon, I'm not talking about shooting some little spongy thing at you. I'm not talking about shooting something where you hope the neighbor kid doesn't get hit in the eye and then come back and his eye swells up for a little bit. What I'm talking about is a gun meant to look like a kid's Nerf gun that can kill you and you shoot bullets in. Should that be legal? And I hope you spend some time thinking about that. See you next time as we go down the road.